Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start our video today with a story about restless neighbors and their little war. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Enjoy your destroyed bushes and plants. This happened, I guess, about 12 years ago. Crap, I'm old. Living in a small country town means you find your own ways to have fun, such as breaking down an old Nordic track to remove the skis, attaching rope to a truck, and skiing behind it. My brother, a few friends, and myself had a blast doing this one day. We shared an open barn with no walls, with the neighbor. The barn was actually owned by the neighbor, but they needed our yard to access it. The neighbors had the gall to drive through our yard to where we were in the back and tell us not to drive through their yard at all, which was all of about 10 feet just to turn around. Petty revenge number 1. My mother, seeing what happened, confronts them and tells them, "That's fine, but you can't drive through our yard anymore." We watch them squeeze in between their house and the tree line to get back out, running over all the bushes, flowers, etc. in the process. It was actually impressive considering how tight of a squeeze it was. The retaliation from them was to come over and tell us we can't use the barn. Petty revenge number 2. We remove all our items from the barn, which consisted of old lawnmowers, riding and push, some furniture, and a pommel horse for some reason. We made what could only be described as a white trash fence with all that garbage, made sure we were on our property line, and built a trash barrier. Needless to say, the relationship never got repaired, and they moved a few months after. We put everything back in the barn and became great friends with the new owners. And our second story. Don't want to let me train a replacement before I leave? Alrighty then. I used to work as the dedicated inventory guy for a tire and wheel store that dealt in only that. Big chain. All their guys wear black. Not by choice, even on the most blistering of days. Nearly 10 years working there, and I was the only one handling their 5,000 to 7,500 tires, along with several hundred wheels, nuts, bolts, tire lube, replacement parts. Basically, I organized the entire store in terms of what was bought, sold, used. I received most shipments, whether a single tire by FedEx or our 2 times a week shipment of 400 to 800 units. Not something I knew for a long time, but my technical job was listed as a 3-person rotating task. I did it all myself. The manager I worked with for most of those 10 years was very happy and supportive of me, trying to make sure I was taken care of if I needed help. Unfortunately, the company underwent plenty of changes after the owner of the whole chain died. It shifted from a family thing to a profit and micromanagement thing. My great manager was stressed and went from great to not so great. I won't deny I got pretty upset with a few things from him, but it was just the situation didn't favor him. Ultimately, he was transferred to an administrative position to finish out till retirement, and we got a new manager and lots of extra salary salesmen. I was left on inventory, as everyone confirmed I was the only guy for the job that knew anything. They tried giving me newbies to learn the ropes, but I only got a couple of days with them before they were pulled for more important things. Eventually, they gave up caring and figured I would do inventory for the foreseeable future. Well, the end of 2018 came, with me looking for other opportunities. It wasn't entirely because of the shift at work, but doing a 3-person job after 10 years was starting to take its toll on my back. I started about 20 and was getting close to 30. I can't deny I was getting kind of scared I would do something irreparable to my back that would stick with me forever. They pulled equipment I needed to do better without straining myself more, made the process of pulling inventory more bureaucratic and lengthy without the need for it, and would keep trying to limit my time doing things but expect the same results. They also kept resisting my plans to reorganize stock because brands don't always need the same amount of space. That major brand that did really well 3 years ago and taking up 1,000 tires worth of space only takes up 400 now. But hey, I have this brand that did an overhaul and we used to carry barely 250 of them. Now we're ordering hundreds of them weekly with a need for 750 units of space. So there's stock unable to fit in one place, but a huge gap in another I can fill. I'm sure some of you can understand you don't just start shoving items from the wrong brand into a gap because there's space there, use it. As I'm in the final weeks of my lovely tenure there, I've been training for the new job for about 6 weeks, they had plenty of warning to replace my position. I reminded them they should find someone I can give the rundown to before it's too late. My new management, as well as 2 salesmen I never liked, tell me in a very businessy and polite terms, just do your job and let us worry about it. I tried to be nice about it because while I don't get on well with the salesman, except one, he was always great, and I love my fellow service techs in the back getting dirty on every car through the heat of summer and getting our legs turned almost blue when working in the freezing snow and slush of the winter, I then realized that it's really their problem, not mine. I found a lovely time when all 3 of my most concerning resistors were away. 2 were on meetings with corporate for 2 to 3 days. 1 was on vacation for the rest of the week. This was great as it was my last week as well. I hauled all kinds of butt that week, reorganized the whole place to my OCD specs. I wanted everything to fit. I wanted everything perfectly presentable. I did it my way and got everything in. To note, some years, especially in peak winter with lots coming in, we got so overstocked we couldn't fit everything all at once, which also was because of them not letting me deal with it efficiently. I took care of all that overstock and fit it all in. Brands were moved and notes left. I let all my favorite coworkers who pulled my inventory the most know what's up. They adapted instantly because it's really not that hard. Just remember, the salt is in the pantry now, not next to the stove. I was commended on my effort and thanked for doing that before leaving. However, I knew what was coming. No, not from the guys who didn't want my organization methods. By not replacing me or at least covering what I've been doing for 10 years, well, imagine it's like giving someone a nice, clean, and well-working car that they never maintain because it was always taken care of. Yeah, I started my new job and got paid almost double. A couple months in, I started getting calls from former coworkers. Apparently, they never really tried to replace me at all. Things fell apart. Tires were shoved into racks with no regard for where they belonged. If there was space, fill it. After 3 months, I heard 3 longtime employees walked out because of the lack of organization was killing their bay times for dealing with cars, leading to a domino fall of stressful work environment stuff. It took an average of 15 minutes at our store to deal with most things on one car. However, I was told it was now taking that long just to find the units needed after pulling the car in. Heck, sometimes they gave up and tried to huff it to another nearby store to find their tires, thinking they had an inventory error. Obviously, that level of delay and inefficiency made the managers angry at those they blamed. Service techs usually got the heat. I wish I could say there was more juicy details about the aftermath, but at a certain point, all my ears in that store left. I feel like that's enough said in and of itself. One bit that came about the 4 or 5 month mark after I left, though, one of the managers called me on my personal phone. They asked how I was doing and wondered if my new job was working out. I was happy and energetically told them how great I felt in my new job. He inquired whether I might be interested in helping out at the store again. I declined. Now, I'm not the best at reading people, but this person seemed so lost in their tone that I only guessed they had so little luck in finding a replacement for what I did. I'm far more appreciated now in my new job. The thing that made me feel a little bad, but also goodish, is that my former coworkers agreed that when I left is when things started to get terrible. It probably didn't hurt that I was the insatiable goof of the store too, who told so many bad puns. And our last story. Kiss a big customer goodbye. I was on a business trip to a client in Philly, located just far enough away from the city to be a very expensive cab ride, but not so far as to warrant a rental car. I flew down, got an airport cab there, was there for a week being picked up and delivered from my hotel by taxi. And on Friday, the client called a cab for me to return to the airport. The driver of my cab was distracted and not driving with safe attention to the road, so after a couple of miles, he hit another car. Fortunately, it was a low-speed collision, just barely not fast enough to deploy airbags, and everyone walked away unharmed. However, I had to wait for the cops to show up to give a statement, and I insisted the cab company send another car with another driver to take me to the airport. A couple minutes into waiting, I realized the driver had left the meter running, which I insisted he stop. All told, I was there maybe an hour between waiting for the cops, talking to the cop, convincing the cop not to force me to go to the hospital, I had a black eye before the accident, and the cop was really worried that I was terribly injured and too delusional to realize I'd been hurt, and waiting for a new cab to show up. So while I left early for my flight, by the time I got to the airport, I was going to have to rush to make it. You'd think if you had a cab company and your driver had a car accident with a passenger in the car, you'd see that they got to their destination safely and hope they don't sue you. But not only did the second cabbie run the meter and ask me to pay, but he told me the owner of the cab company had insisted he get the fare from the first cab's meter and insist I pay it too. He had the decency to look ashamed about this, so I wasn't too nasty to him personally. I told him calmly that I recognized that the law allowed that I could be charged for the trip, although good business practice would dictate otherwise, but that if I hadn't been charged, I would have given him a good tip. While now he'd get no tip, as I was offended. And then I told him what to tell his boss I was going to do. You see, my client there was a major bank. It wasn't Bank of America, but a few years later it got bought by Bank of America, so you can think of it as being that size. And they had people in to consult with them and work with them often. And they always used this cab company for all the local travel. I would be going back there in 2 weeks, so I simply phoned up my client on Monday morning to let them know about the accident and asked them very nicely to please find another cab company for me to use when I would be there. My contact at the client was, of course, horrified and made sure that they, their employees, and their consultants and contractors would never be using that cab company again. Literally professional revenge. Good job. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.